You know, I finally figured out what the joke is. It has been Dennis the whole time. And that thing he called a comedy roast battle, that whole thing was a huge joke too. What's up everyone? It is Lo, Beauty Demon, and we are back to talk about internet BS. We are going to talk about the never-ending spiral of Deaf Noodles, Dennis the Menace, and how he has just continued to self-sabotage for, you know, ever since I posted my last video. But before we get into that, if you have not already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post. And please don't go to anybody mentioned in this video and spread any hate, negativity, nothing like that. These are just my thoughts and opinions based on what I'm seeing play out on the internet. So if you have something to say about what we're talking about, just shoot it down in the comments below. That's what they are there for. So side note, good news, if you look at my community post, I once again didn't have power this morning, so this video might be going up a little later than I wanted it to because, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with the power where I live. We actually have not been on the power grid since the last time I lost power a week ago. We've had these giant-sized generators plugged in all over the city, so maybe this outage this morning was them putting us back on the power grid, but it does also look like it stormed last night, so maybe they just all became unplugged. Who knows? But let's just get into what we really are here for, and that is to talk about Dennis the Menace. I had my last video, which was, I actually don't know when I posted that video, was that like 6 days ago? 6 days ago. He just continued on his rampage. As I was literally uploading and posting that video, Dennis, who now uses the name Killer Noodles, or at least he did at the time, responded to somebody's tweet. This tweet said, "You want to educate others on comedy so we can understand your jokes? Genius." And he quote tweeted this and said, "Go educate yourself at the end of a barrel of a loaded shotgun." Prim Ink even came out of his deep dark shadows to where he lurks on the internet to actually publicly say, "Yo bro, this isn't it. What's going on with you?" When you get Prim Ink to actually publicly make a statement about something, you know you're not on the right course. And of course this caused a lot of uproar. People were very upset about this, and you know, suggesting this to somebody can be very detrimental. And this is even more ironic considering in a video we're going to talk about, he does mention that he's been getting a ton of messages that are similar in nature to this. So if you're getting these messages, why would you publicly say something in a similar fashion to somebody else when obviously you know this can affect somebody's mental health? And in response, he made several videos. The tweet was eventually removed. I believe he removed it. I believe he actually was the one that deleted it. He did post a video, and it had to be like right after when he started getting backlash for it. Now I can't find this video anywhere, and it was a video where Dennis and his new, I don't know what this guy is, producer, co-host on the podcast, Yes Man, Steven, and him were making similar jokes back and forth. He was just like placating and making a mockery of everybody's outrage. But that video was gone as well, and in its place are two other videos, and they are real bangers. I'm just kidding, they're actually terrible. One is addressing the new allegations, and then the other is addressing the tweets that got me canceled. The first one was, actually both of them really were just Dennis raging at his audience. In the first one, the camera's like shaking the entire time, and we find out later, you know, we figure it out when you see his roast, which we will talk about, that he's filming this on his stage, so his stage is very wobbly and rickety. Personally, I would recommend getting that fixed as soon as possible because he does have multiple people standing on the stage at one time, and it could break. It's not very high up above the ground, but that's still not safe. Anyway, at the beginning of these videos, he of course plugs his roast and he plugs his Patreon. He's been plugging the memberships. He's been plugging all this on Twitter excessively as well. But he is making this video to respond directly to comments. And I mean, really in the responding to comments, he kind of like exposes himself a little bit as being maybe not as forthcoming and biased in a lot of ways. You know, he would consider like the things that he said a flex as well. He confirms rumors that he is friends with TikToker Addison Rae's dad, which really normally wouldn't matter except for the fact that he covers Addison Rae and he covers the shenanigans that her dad gets into, which presents an immediate bias in any situation containing, you know, pertaining to anything that they're doing. And he says this because he likes to get both sides of the story. He got at least one half of the story in terms of something that Addison Rae's dad is doing with a rapper or something. Honestly, he just starts to go into a situation that I really don't know anything about, nor do I care about. But he confirms that he is friends and that makes me wonder, like, how much does he reach other people behind the scenes? And he does confirm that there are lots of things that happen behind the scenes that are not on the internet that he is privy to, but we don't know about. And then he responds to a comment saying negative feedback he's been getting from fans, when most of the negative feedback he's been getting are from, you know, real fans and people who actually do support him, but just don't agree with the things that he's doing online. They're not just yes men to Dennis. They're not the echo chamber that he's trying to create for himself. And they're telling him his actions are just, they're not it. This is the kind of stuff that he would call other influencers out on. And he expects his audience to just go along with it when he has cultivated this audience himself. He did this himself. And he discusses backlash that his supporters, his devoted fans, or I would call them stans at this point, his stans are getting. I mean, really, this highlights to me how much he has divided his own audience. His views have nosedived and he's bleeding subscribers. He loses on average 1,000 subscribers a day according to Social Blade, sometimes 2,000 a day. So he's bleeding subscribers and he continues to pick at the wound. But he doesn't care about anybody who doesn't support him. Does take a moment again to plug his Patreon and his memberships for the real supporters. And, you know, he's just here to entertain people who love his content. So why are you yelling at them? You post something really awful on Twitter, you turn into a total dick. What do you expect from your audience? And then, you know, it says stop wasting your time watching him, which would also explain why he's losing subscribers, you know, in such a rapid rate. He's telling people to unsubscribe for him. He talks about how 3 years ago he was on food stamps and then, you know, his channel blew up in the pandemic and all of his dreams came true. But how did you get here? You blew up because your audience was watching you and they helped facilitate all of this. This wall that he's talking about, this wobbly stage that he built, that's all because of his fans supporting his channel. And now he's spending videos yelling at them. What a wonderful way to repay them. He follows it up with saying he is grateful for his audience who are supporting him and his content financially. Am I taking crazy pills here? What is this? And then he said his content was going to continue getting better, and I thought, continue? He also talks about his production value, and he talks about this all while he's on this wobbly stage with his camera like, ugh, and talks about how he has helped big brands and big content creators who have like over 10 million subscribers, and he has helped create content for them. Says we don't know him, which is obvious. Acknowledges that his views have started declining when he started discussing politics more on his channel, and while that is true, that is not the catalyst for all of the stuff that is happening now. It's your other actions. And then he sneaks one of his thirst trap pictures in here, and I'm like, God damn it. And he really tries to drive home that he has never been happier. He's surrounded by friends, his family, he sees a therapist. You know, apparently he's a lot nicer online when he's completely miserable, because he literally says the only difference between now and a year ago is that he's getting more sleep. And I feel like I am super cranky when I don't get enough sleep. So maybe this is like a REM rebound thing for him and he's extra cranky, but you know, I don't want to get all parasocially weird with him. He tries to explain that he has achieved Maslow's hierarchy of needs, except for he calls it a pyramid, which technically, yes, it is in the shape of a pyramid, but I digress. And this is, you know, a very basic outline of humans' needs and like the steps that we take. And he says that he is at self-actualization, which is the very top, and all the other ones below, some of them are pretty basic, like, you know, physical needs. So like food, water, air, those kinds of things. And then your second is your safety needs. So shelter, financial security, your health, things like that. And then the third is love and belonging, your family and friends. So he's achieved all of that. I'm sure 100% he has. He talks about this. And so those three stages are considered lower level needs, things that we need to survive so we can actually get to the other two, which the level 4 is self-esteem, and then level 5, which is the top, the capstone of this pyramid that Dennis is referring to, is self-actualization. I personally, just based on like what I am seeing with Dennis, I'm gonna say he's probably more so at level 4, which is esteem needs. Now there are two ways that you can go about this. One is getting self-esteem from other people's responses to you and based on like the outside world, which we know is like not the healthiest. And then of course the best way to go about it is self-assessment and having that own self-esteem coming from within. I'm sure Dennis would say it is the latter, of course, but for somebody who really doesn't care what other people think about him, he has spent 2 whole videos responding to comments about what he thinks about other people, and then in his roast, they spend an awful lot of time talking about trolls. So I think Dennis is probably more in the esteem area, and he is still really caught up in what people are saying about him, and it's causing him to completely lash out. Self-esteem and self-actualization are 2 different things. Anyway, and there's my armchair psychology for that. Okay, we're just going to move on, and the rest of this video was just him responding to comments. One in particular was from a person who said they don't care what anyone else's opinion is, they still love Destin Noodles, and he says this person is a true fan, a real ride or die. What is the difference between a blind follower and a parasocial weirdo, as Dennis calls people who, you know, are expressing concern with him? What is the difference? In fact, I find this to be a little more alarming than people who are actually calling out your behavior. Oh, right, it's because this person is part of his echo chamber, and I'm assuming has probably paid for some sort of membership or something. And then the next day, he had his sequel, which was addressing the tweets that got me canceled. In this, he addresses several tweets. The Papa Gut tweet, he doubles down about joking about him, of course, and that he didn't know that him crying, what he was talking about, and that he had apologized to him in this 6-hour Twitter spaces, which no one has time to go back and listen to. So it is a good thing that you put it into a video. Of course, he totally negates this entire apology in his roast battle. We'll talk about it. And then he also says this is nothing like the situation between he and Kim. It is, I would personally say it is pretty similar. And then he like literally addresses it and breaks a lot of it down. And honestly, I'm like, legally, I don't think you should really be talking about this on a video and putting it on the internet. It's just gonna make your case worse. He also uses this video to continue to divide his fans and claims he doesn't know what caused this. I'm sorry, this man is 37 years old. How can he sit here and say this? It's obviously because of your actions. I'm starting to think that he is lying about his age still, and he is in fact not 37, but he is 17, because this is not a mature, self-actualized adult. Honestly though, when I see a lot of people who I think or who claim to be working towards or are self-actualized, I see a lot of arrogance and greed, and I'm seeing that with him as well. You know, with of course the constant plugging of Patreon and memberships, but I'm assuming that is probably to offset some of the losses from the lack of views he's getting on his video compared to even 6-8 months ago. And then addresses a shotgun tweet, and he phrases it as telling somebody to go to hell. These are 2 totally different things. And honestly, like with these 2 addressing videos, he looks pretty rough. Like maybe he's not getting as much sleep as he says he's been getting the past, you know, year or whatever. Then I'm sure after this video, he had more stupid tweets, was constantly plugging his Patreon on Twitter. He also was claiming that people were trying to deplatform him, which people saying that you should take a break is not people trying to deplatform you. He's really trying to twist the narrative into people are attacking him. Anyway, all of this has been building up to his big roast battle, his big comedy show at this new comedy club that he's built with this rickety wobbly scary stage. You guys, this was one of the most painful things I've ever seen. It was so hard to watch. I initially had to watch it through a filter of Paige Christie's channel, but because she was, you know, fast forwarding through things and like catching up and pausing things like I did go back and watch as much as I could, but it was really, really hard. Oh my god. It was, honestly, it was abysmal. It was an abysmal show, and it took a while for me to even get the setup, which, okay, I get it. Like, I get low budget vibes here, but the show was, I think it was late. I don't actually know what time it was supposed to start. And they had like a projector screen with scenes being projected, but they couldn't even line up the projector on the screen. And then they were playing like YouTube, I guess, and they couldn't even get YouTube Premium for this. Like even just try a 7-day trial because they would get ads. And it just had like a whole terrible flow. In fact, the tech of this show, I don't want to say it was the worst part because it was a comedy show and I really didn't see any comedy, but the tech could have maybe made the show a little better. In fact, it just made it a million times worse. Did they not have a tech rehearsal? Because when people would pick up mics in the beginning and even like towards the end when Dennis picked up a mic, it didn't work. Like I said, the projector wasn't lined up. They would sometimes turn the lights off randomly in the middle of 2 people's set. They had this video audio clip that was going to be for Dennis's entrance, and they played it 3 times. And the people on stage actually had to stop what they were doing and let them play this audio clip, what was a video, multiple times. Really, you didn't run a tech rehearsal, like at all. You couldn't figure out any of these kinks before you had those 15 to 20 people sitting in there, not to mention all of the thousands of people watching it on Twitch and YouTube. And Dennis had this like epic intro, which was just clips of Rich Lux, Adam McIntyre, Sebastian Soto, all giving their opinion and feedback as to Dennis's actions recently. And then he even had the audacity to include the video of Papa Gut starting to cry again. And then he followed up with a tagline of, you know, the man who makes grown men cry on the internet, after he said in a video and he said on his Twitter spaces that he was apologizing to him for doing that because he did not know the context of it. Now he knows the context of it and he still made it his intro. The intro, oh my God, see, the intro was the thing that played several times during the performance, so it completely lost any appeal. The audience has already seen it, and then they played it on the wrong screen the first time, so then they had to play it again to have him come out. Let me just go back to the beginning though. In the beginning, he came out and, you know, just briefly introduced his roast battle and said that he had some comedians that were going to come out. And, you know, you would think that these comedians would come out and warm the audience up, and they did nothing of the sort. In fact, Dennis cut them off early because they were not telling literally any jokes at all. One of the men was Steven, his like yes man, who came out holding a joint or smoking a joint, which I wouldn't really care about that normally, but it says to me like, A, he really doesn't care about this, and we know he's gonna bomb, and he did. And he had two other guys with him, and they literally just got stuck with like responding to hecklers in the audience and the Twitch chat, because there was a screen with the Twitch chat running the whole time. Eventually, Dennis got banned from Twitch, so that kind of just froze right up. And that came from another comedian who continued to say the F slur over and over and over again, and really gave people the opportunity to legitimately report the stream on Twitch. Look, I don't want to trash all the people who tried, these comedians. I felt bad for some of them, honestly. I felt really bad. But the amount of dead air that was happening between these roasts and the fact that none of these people could really come up with good, funny roasts, it was just like fat shaming or, you know, just homophobic sort of stuff. Whatever, when you're part of the community, you can make fun of people like that. I know it's a double standard, whatever, but like to a lot of outside people, it's just not funny. And maybe it's because I'm a little highbrow. I like kind of weird, off-putting humor, but I like insult comics too. I like insult humor. You just gotta be really good at it, and none of these people were. One man, you could tell he really wanted to not do this anymore, and he eventually ran off the stage. I thought he ran out the building, but he did come back. But like, it was so painful. And they had this like roast battle gambit where they had two people come up, they would roast battle, one would be declared the winner, and then they would continue on and on until the winner has a roast battle with Deaf Noodles. And oh my God, Dennis was literally the worst person. He was the worst out of all of them. He actually came out on stage after that completely cringy intro that he overplayed multiple times and actually didn't tell any jokes. He was just standing there part of the time when he's trying to roast battle this girl, and I don't know what this girl's issue was. The entire time she's just breathing into the microphone. Like, was she holding it right in her mouth? Oh, I just got lip gloss on that. Somebody get this girl an inhaler. I don't know what was going on. She seemed like she was hyperventilating the whole time. Did somebody have a paper bag for this chick? It was very distracting. And Dennis is just like standing there staring at her. And the two jokes I remember about her, or the two jokes rather I remember him making about her, was one, he asked her if she was from Detroit and she said no. And that was it. That was the joke. I don't know what the joke was. And then he said, "You look like my cousin if he was a girl." And that's not a joke either. It's not a roast. It's just, he even said, "I'm bombing." He acknowledged that he was bombing on stage. This was his chance to show us all of the comedic training, the improv work, this amazing stand-up stuff he's been working on. I honestly would recommend that he take more lessons. Maybe give these roasts like some structure. As I'm watching this, I think like a big part of it was there was no structure to it. I've worked on low-budget theater. I've worked in a lot of low-budget theater. I've worked in low-budget comedy shows. I've done improv shows. I wouldn't consider myself an actor or anything, but I have a lot of friends that are in the local community theater scenes and do produce and put on a lot of shows. They do way better with less budget than Dennis did of this. I mean, when I say like give these roasts structure, I mean like, for example, you can make the roast a game where it's questions only. Your roast can only be done in the form of a question. The alphabet, where your roasts have to begin with a letter of the alphabet starting with A and just going down the line. Or your roast is yes and, so somebody roasts you and you yes and build off of their roast. Those are just 3 little examples that I thought of off the top of my head. Questions only is one of my favorite improv games. It's super fun if you're at a party. Anyway, these are things that could have really warmed the audience up, and it could have helped with all this dead air and this dead space that these actors had between them. Well, not actors, comedians. My point is like, bring some actual rules of comedy and improv into this, because this was just bad. I feel like he just watched a bunch of episodes in Wild Out and was like, I can do that. I'm the next Nick Cannon. No, dude, you're not the next Nick Cannon. You are not the next Pete Davidson. You are, I don't see you anywhere in the world of comedic talent. And to top it off, most of the people on the stage appeared to be looking at their phone and looking at jokes. It's kind of hard to tell exactly because this was filmed, or it looked like it was filmed on a potato, so it was kind of grainy at times. I thought he said he was upping his content more. So what was all of this? The quality was not great. The tech of the entire show was just horrendous. As somebody who has run tech on a show, get a stage manager or something. Like, did he have a stage manager for this? Was it Steven? Oh God. Part of me did feel a little bad for him, as in, like, you know, I've said I've done a lot of shows and I can understand the pressure, especially the first one of like trying to execute everything, but a lot of that stress and pressure goes away when you like have run-throughs and practice. And I know obviously he can't have run-throughs and practice of people coming and doing improvisational roast battles, but the tech would have at least helped this show a little bit. And he needs a more sturdy stage, because he had like 4 or 5 people on there, and at least 2 to 3 of those people were over 200 pounds, because they were big dudes, you know, they were big guys. I was worried about that stage. I will say I do give another props though. I do love the black box theater setup. That's kind of one of my favorite sort of theater setups, especially for like comedy improv shows, because it is more intimate and it allows you to interact with your audience a lot better. God, it was so painful to watch. As far as I know, it is still up on the Deaf Noodles show channel. I did figure out that's where his podcast was. I said in my last video, I don't know where it is, and I didn't really care, but I did figure it out. And he is back to, you know, just responding to people on Twitter, promoting his Patreon. He claims that this was a success because he was trending on Twitter immediately afterwards. No, you were not trending because it was a success. You were trending because people were saying how horrible it was. In fact, right after I jumped into a live stream where several creators were talking about it, and then I actually went to a Twitter Spaces that Rich Lux had that so many people were not saying it was good. I found one tweet that somebody said it was a good show, and it's obvious this girl is a stan, because then I did see that exact same person post picture with him from the show. And then it was back to business as usual for Dennis, though he says he's not gonna be, you know, he's transitioning out of doing YouTube drama. He then posted a video about the McBroom family, the Ace family, just acting like, you know, business as usual. I would be so mortified, so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be watching it. I couldn't believe it. I even like showed my husband briefly what the set was, and he was like, what the hell is that? I don't know, maybe he'll work out the kinks. I think the biggest kink he needs to work out is he's not funny, and he didn't have really any funny people on it. Maybe it was a bunch of nerves going around. Nerves. I don't know what else to say except for it was very painful to watch, and I don't know if I can put myself through it again. I'm just kidding. I will probably watch the next roast battle to see if the tech is as bad as this one. I think that's what really got me the most, was just the one thing he had control over, he completely flopped. But that is just me, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, if you have not checked out my second channel, it is Lostalgia, where I dive into things that are nerdy to me, or not nerdy, but like nostalgic to me, things that I love, comic books, video games, stuff that I thrift. I said gains, whatever. Just check it out if you're interested. I will link it down below, and I will see you guys next time. Laters. Bye.